Welcome to another Coastin With Quayz coaster review. This is Mark, aka Quayz. Today, I will be reviewing the Loch Ness Monster at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. The Loch Ness Monster is an historic coaster known for its iconic interlocking loops. It was the first coaster to feature such an element, and is the only remaining coaster with interlocking loops today. For the 2024 season, Busch Gardens renovated the coaster by replacing some of the track, adding lighting elements to the tunnel, repainting the ride, and adding themed elements to the queue. It is refreshing to see the refurbishment of classic coasters instead of tearing them down for something new. With the Loch Ness Monster being such an iconic ride, it can continue to hold its place in history at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, and I would recommend a ride if you visit the park. Let's take a look at the historic coaster's stats. For a coaster pushing nearly 50 years in age, it has some impressive numbers. The Loch Ness Monster is located at Busch Gardens Williamsburg in Williamsburg, Virginia. It was manufactured by Aerodynamics, has a maximum height of 130 feet with a drop of 114.2 feet and an angle of descent of 55 degrees. The overall length of the ride is 3,240 feet with a top speed of 60 miles per hour. That's pretty impressive for an older coaster. There are two inversions. It opened up in 1978 but was redone in 2024, and it has a minimum height requirement of 48 inches. One of the most impressive things about the Loch Ness Monster is the way that it weaves itself back and forth over the Grove Creek. Standing on the walkway over the creek allows for some breathtaking views of the ride as it runs through its cycle. Speaking of which, the Loch Ness Monster begins its route out of the station by making a 180-degree turn and begins its ascent up the lift hill. As you reach the top, the ride curves to the right, aims towards the creek, and plunges directly towards the water. Just as you're about to collide with the water, the train ascends towards the opposite bank. Once on the other side, you turn around to 180 degrees and begin another large drop that travels into the first interlocking loop. Negative forces experienced during this tight loop are fantastic. Upon exiting the first of two inversions, you pop up and turn to the right as you make your way towards the Loch Ness Monster's large helix through a tunnel. This is another good moment of forces, and the projections and sounds of the monster throughout add to the thrill of the ride. After exiting the tunnel, you travel up into a turnaround and then lunge forward down a small drop into the final inversion, a second interlocking loop. Just like the first loop, this second inversion also features fantastic negative g-forces. From the loop, the train finishes its course by ascending upwards into the final brake run. Overall, the Loch Ness Monster is a fun ride, and when it debuted in 1978, I imagine that it ranked amongst the top tier of coasters. Today, it is a fun ride that paved the way for more modern coasters like Alpengeist and Griffon, also at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Nessie acts as a fantastic coaster for newer or younger riders looking for a first experience with inversions, but it does not offer a dynamic experience for coaster enthusiasts. Much of the coaster consists of slow straight track or turnarounds. These moments act simply to connect each of the major elements of the ride. On modern coasters, turns tend to be more dramatic and offer elements of great forces or even airtime. In fact, the ending of Pantheon at Busch Gardens includes a great wave turn, offering some floater airtime. When you spend the day riding these more engaging coasters at Busch Gardens, it does make the Loch Ness Monster seem a bit lackluster. The shaky rattle on Nessie also does not help its cause. These slower moments of the ride do not make it a bad ride. Two elements of Nessie that are great include both the first and second drops, as well as the interlocking loops. The best parts of the ride are the iconic loops, and even today, they rival the forces that you would experience on vertical loops of many other coasters. The loops are very compact, resulting in you getting absolutely smashed into the bottom of your seat. They are definitely the standout moments of the ride. Both main drops on the ride allow for some great speed. 60 miles per hour for a coaster built in 1978 is a huge achievement. My only complaint is that at the bottom of the second drop, a brake slows the train down just as it reaches its top speed so that the train can safely travel through the loop. The same experience occurs before the second loop as well. I fully understand why the train slows down as you enter the loops, but the decrease in speed is very noticeable and it does hinder the overall momentum of the ride. After my ride on the Loch Ness Monster, I did not feel the need to re-ride it during my visit, but I was glad that I was able to experience a coaster that is such a huge part of roller coaster history. Even though it is not the best or most thrilling ride in the park, as it once was, it still holds a valid spot in Busch Gardens Williamsburg's coaster lineup. Nessie is a great family thrill coaster and bridges the gap between something like Invader, Busch Gardens wooden coaster, and something like Apollo's Chariot, their B&M hyper coaster. For its final score, I will give the Loch Ness Monster a 6 out of 10. It is worth a ride when you visit Busch Gardens Williamsburg, but it will not be most people's favorite coaster in the park. Nessie will resonate from a historical perspective, and those who visited the park during its inaugural years will most likely feel a sense of nostalgia as they walk around it, and that is where the Loch Ness Monster truly shines. I hope you liked this coaster review. If you liked what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, keep on coasting.